Imagine yourself standing on a street corner in New York City just after the turn of the century. The air is thick with the smell of coal smoke and expensive perfume. There is a constant rhythmic pulse of horse-drawn carriages, early motorcars, and the frantic energy of a city that never seems to sleep. It's a sensory overload, a chaotic dance of people moving in every direction. This is where we meet Lieutenant Harvey Forbes. He's a soldier, recently returned from the Philippines, and he's feeling a bit adrift. He's a man who has seen the raw, unvarnished reality of war, and now he's dropped back into the most artificial, highly choreographed environment imaginable. As he navigates these crowded streets, he sees her. She's in a landaulet, one of those small, elegant carriages, and she's wearing a hat that he can't forget, a distinctive, extravagant bird-of-paradise hat. That glimpse is the beginning of an obsession. That woman is Persis Cabot, and through her, Forbes is pulled into a whirlwind of high society New York. He finds himself moving through a world of glittering ballrooms and intense, whispered secrets. He meets her inner circle, including the boisterous Murray, Tenike, and the wealthy, somewhat possessive Willie Ensley. As Forbes gets closer to Persis, the novel takes us into the heart of this social machine. We see it through the way people move. There's the frantic, almost manic rhythm of the turkey-trot, and then there's the tango. The tango is crucial here. It's not just a dance, it's a moment of intense, physical, and emotional synchronicity. When Forbes and Persis dance, the social veneers, the polite smiles, and the careful manners begin to crack. For a few minutes, they aren't just a soldier and a socialite, they are just two people caught in a moment of genuine passion. But New York high society isn't built on passion, it's built on something much colder, stability and reputation. As their connection deepens, we see the cracks in Persis's world. Her father is facing financial ruin. In this world, a family's social standing is their lifeblood, and once that's gone, everything collapses. This brings us to the central crushing conflict of the book. Persis is faced with a choice that feels less like a romantic dilemma and more like a business transaction. She can follow her heart and be with Forbes, a man of modest military means, or she can marry Willie Ensley, a man whose wealth can settle her father's debts and keep the family name from being dragged through the mud. In the social language of the time, marriage was often described as a jackpot. It was a high-stakes gamble. For Persis, the choice is pragmatic and devastating. She chooses security. She enters into a loveless engagement with Willie Ensley to save her family. The novel describes her wedding not as a celebration, but as a funeral. The white satin and the veil aren't symbols of purity or new beginnings, they are the shroud of her autonomy. She's being commodified, turned into a piece of property to settle a debt. The marriage between Persis and Willie is a hollow, performative thing. On the surface, they're the perfect social couple, but behind closed doors it is a disaster. Willie is a man driven by deep insecurity and a need for total possession. He knows he has bought her, but he can't buy her affection. This creates a toxic tension. Persis withdraws emotionally, retreating into herself, which only fuels Willie's manic, controlling behavior. Their life becomes a public spectacle of propriety that masks a private reality of profound misery. While Persis is trapped in this gilded cage, Forbes is haunted. He tries to bury himself in his military duties, trying to find some sense of order and purpose, but he can't escape the memory of her. The tension between them continues in secret, through stolen glances and whispered words, until the tension finally snaps. The breaking point comes when their affair is discovered by their social circle. In a world where what people will say is the ultimate law, this discovery is a social death sentence. The climax of the novel is violent and sudden. At the Ensley estate, during a heated, manic argument, Willie's insecurity turns into murderous rage. He stabs Persis. But this is where the book takes its most cynical and striking turn. Even in the face of a brutal murder, the instinct to protect the social order remains stronger than the instinct to seek justice. In a final, tragic act of social preservation, a conspiracy of silence is formed. The household, the family, the very people who value reputation above all else, decide to cover up the crime. They want to protect the family name. They want to avoid the scandal. They work to frame the murder as a suicide. The law eventually steps in. There is a media frenzy and even a forensic exhumation of Persis's body to find the truth. But the truth is elusive. the evidence is muddied by the very social structures meant to uphold order. The legal outcome remains inconclusive, leaving the truth buried under a veil of decorum. The story ends with Harvey Forbes, a man who has been hollowed out by his experiences. He returns to his military life, but he is a ghost of the man he once was. He is forever haunted by the memory of a woman who chose the safety of a gilded cage over the passion of a true love. When we look at the book as a whole, we can see that Rupert Hughes is making a profound statement about the tension between appearance and reality. The entire social structure of the characters' world is a performance. They are all playing roles: the dutiful daughter, the wealthy suitor, the respectable gentleman. But underneath those roles are raw, often ugly, human emotions that the social code refuses to acknowledge. The title, "What Will People Say?" is the heartbeat of the novel. It is the question that governs every decision, every marriage, and every tragedy. It's the question that forces Persis to sacrifice her own happiness for the sake of a reputation. It's the question that turns a murder into a cover-up. There is a powerful metaphor in the way Hughes uses dance throughout the story. The dances aren't just background noise, they are a way of understanding how these characters interact. The turkey-trot represents the frantic, somewhat mindless movement of social life, but the tango represents the dangerous, rhythmic, and often destructive movements of real human passion. The characters are constantly trying to find a rhythm that allows them to be themselves without breaking the rules of the dance. But the music of society is too rigid to allow it. In many ways, the novel explores the cost of ambition and the commodification of the self. Persis isn't just a victim of Willie N. Slee, she is a victim of a system that treats marriage as a financial merger and people as assets. She loses her identity to maintain a standard of living, and in doing so, she loses her life. It's a heavy, often tragic story, but it's one that feels incredibly modern in its exploration of the masks we wear. We all live in some version of a social world, with pressures to perform, to conform, and to maintain certain images. Hughes's novel asks us to look beneath the surface of those performances and consider what is being lost in the process. It suggests that when we become too obsessed with what people will say, we might find that the truth is something we've buried so deeply that we can never truly recover it.